From the TIC manager, CCTV manager, councillors Marco Motta, Nick Morris and Steve Hick.
Okay, thank you very much. Just in terms of apologies, in order to ensure that we are at quorum, because we've had several issues over the last few months with people not being able to make it, but just so that we know that we will have the right amount of numbers for this, if we can try and make sure that we send our apologies direct to Joe or Louise or Laura in order to ensure that we have enough time to make sure we have enough people here. If you could send it to them by 2 o'clock, if not before, 2 o'clock on the day, if not before, to make sure that we have the right numbers. Cool, thank you. Any interests? From, no, I haven't got any interests from this side. Can't remember what we're doing.
The Blister Arts grant.
Oh, I do have an interest. Yes, I have to declare an interest because we have Blister Arts on the agenda this evening, so I will have to leave. Oh, which we won't be quorum, which means we won't be able to deal with that.
We'll raise it at the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, just having a look through the minutes. Next agenda item is minutes. Page 1 looks fine to me. Does anyone have any issues with the minutes? They are very short because it was an emergency meeting, so there isn't a huge amount of detail to discuss on these, but I'm happy with page 1. Anybody got any other things that they want to add? No, we're all good. Okay, I'll propose that the meeting minutes for the last meeting are present and correct. Do I have a seconder? All those in favour? Thank you, that's unanimous. We've done them all. Okay, so number 4 on the agenda is matters arising. There's no matters arising. Nope. We're okay from the minutes, thank you. Number 5, open session for electors, verbal, written or questions. We have written questions. I haven't received any, Joe?
No written questions, Chair.
That's fine, and we've got nobody in the gallery, so we can move on. Number 6 is the applications and the grants award. This is the agenda item that I have an interest in, so as we don't have more than 4 members, we won't be able to discuss this. Joe?
Yeah, that's correct. So what I'd like to just recommend is, again, we put this out by email to the rest of the committee members just for a steer on whether they would support giving the remainder of your funding, which is £500, towards Blister Arts. There is no, that's still the element of the first phase of funding. Then that would be my suggestion. We did try that before. Unfortunately, I didn't hear back from all members, so in the absence of not hearing back from anyone, I couldn't make a decision by email, but I'm happy to do that again, or alternatively, push it to the September grants window.
Yeah, I wonder whether it's worth us emailing to let them know formally so that they can make that choice, because it might be they're like, oh, if we can't give them the full amount, it might be that they would rather apply for the full amount and
in the next round.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that.
Does that need to be a motion, or can that just be agreed? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, number 7 is the CCT manager's report.
Yeah, so Charity's not here tonight, so I'll just give a kind of a brief overview. She's got 2 reports. The first of which, the only item of her report that I was just going to give a bit of clarity on is the financial request that she's asked of the committee. So within her report, hopefully it is relatively self-explanatory in terms of the Bosch licenses that she's asking for. So these licenses renew every 2 years, and essentially what they provide is technical support to our repair and maintenance contractor. So most of the kit within the CCTV control system is Bosch manufactured. So in order for our contractor to access technical support when they need it, they need a license to do that. So we've always had it. It's always just a rolling 2-year thing. It ran out in June, and Charity would like to recommend basically applying for the license again for the next 2 years out of the CCTV EMR, which is £2,102.69.
Chair? Vice Chair?
Just out of interest, what happened? What would have happened in between June and now had there been an issue?
I can only just go on my assumptions because unfortunately I'm not the manager, but I can only assume that they've just been restricted into what they can do in regards to repairs and maintenance. They may have had to they may have been hindered in what they can do. So there might have been some repairs that they couldn't action, or some software updates they couldn't action. So my assumption would be the longer you leave it, the more you're hindering your repair and maintenance contract, which you're paying a quite heavy sum for.
Thank you.
Thanks. There was a proposal to release those funds from Councillor Cheney, second, and I'll second it. All those in favour? Great, thank you.
I don't think there's anything else I particularly wanted to elaborate in her report, other than she did believe and wanted just some clarity on whether this committee wants charity to explore way leave agreements again. So just for a bit of context, some of you may know what it is, you may not. So essentially, wherever you've got a camera attached to a property, Town Council will have a way leave agreement with the landlord of that property to basically allow us to have electrical infrastructure on their building, which we maintain, we look after. If it breaks, we damage it. If anything associated with that infrastructure breaks and it breaks their building, then we're still liable for it. It's a standard agreement. We were given the system back in 2015, and unfortunately we weren't given a whole load of way leave agreements with that from Cornwall Council. So we've just operated on the basis that there's must be previous agreements with Cornwall Council and those landlords. And has flagged up whether we just would be better just to try and wrap this up and restart again and just get our own agreements with these landlords. No one has approached us from a landlord perspective to say that, you know, this is a problem for them, or they've flagged up themselves. But just she did try this exercise a couple of years ago, but it was quite difficult to get a hold of some of these property owners. So my only suggestion to charity, if we do this, is maybe work with Mark from BID, who might have a better, and maybe even some of the estate agents, someone who might have a better connections to on who to contact. So that's something that she would like a bit of steer on.
What's the risk of leaving it as it is?
I mean, the risk is if anything happens with any of those areas where you've got camera equipment attached to a building, and let's say, you know, a part fails, or, you know, causes some sort of incident and damages the property, there really isn't anything in writing to say where the responsibility lies.
Okay.
So we wouldn't necessarily have much to back us up. Equally, the landlord wouldn't either. So it just protects all parties.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Yeah, personally.
Yep. I'll second. All those in favour? Great. Thanks to charity.
Yeah, and with a recommendation definitely to speak to Mark, because I'm sure, I know he's been speaking about having spoken to the owners of the post office building, which I think would have thought would be one of the hardest ones recently, about something separate. So hopefully Mark will be a good in for that.
Great.
And her second report, I'll be honest, I'm not charity and I'm not the RFO, so it's almost a prelude to the budget. So just as a general update for the committee members, the budget process is being pushed back to beginning October. Various factors around that, but the overriding factor is the financial system that we have was down for 3 weeks, which was reported to GNR. It was unfortunate. It's now back up and running, but it has set the RFO back in terms of workload. So that, I believe, has been agreed with the chair of GNR, and that's so October meetings will be your budget meetings. Okay. So what service managers were asked to do in ahead of that was give the RFO some kind of top line ideas as to what they would like committee and the RFO to consider in your budget for next following year. So I don't have a massive amount of detail into what she's asked for and any detail around the figures, but it will come to October anyway. So my only suggestion is, if you have any questions about any specific budget items that she's asked for, feel free to ping it to me, Charity and Anne, and we'll do our best to respond before October.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, any other questions for Joe in place of Charity? Nope, we're all good. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to number 8 on the agenda is the bid report. Obviously, bid can't make it on a Thursday, but is there any matters that we need to discuss out of that, Joe? Or can we just...
Not myself, Chair, it's just for noting.
No, just for noting. Okay, great. Okay. Nope, no other questions or thoughts on bid report? Okay, moving on.
There is sorry. Yeah, there was a reference to Newquay Rangers being very successful with strong positive public response, which was nice to hear Mark say that. It would just be useful to hear any feedback from Newquay Town Council officers-wise in terms of Rangers. Is that within scope?
Sorry. Oh, yeah. Probably. As in the hiring of, or as in our thoughts?
How we, as in your thoughts on how you think kind of they're getting on.
If I'm perfectly honest, we haven't had any feedback at all
Okay.
From residents or anything like that. As much
Okay.
as we've seen them around, we haven't had any feedback at all from them. And if I'm personal, I haven't had personal experience of bumping into them either, if I'm perfectly honest. But as a corporate service, we haven't heard any feedback from the public or anything. So I assume
Okay.
that's
Cool.
a good thing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great stuff. Okay, dokes. So now we'll move on to number 9, which is the Library and Information Service Manager's report. Over to you, Joe.
Well, the main thing really a lot of it's just information really, but the main thing for committee is just, we're just asking really for a go-ahead to pursue a national lottery bid, an Arts Council bid. Kieran, who's the policy officer, I think people know, has been working on it. And we're sort of exploring quite a relatively small bid in the context of lotteries really, for some arts-based work across the library, maybe sort of a 12-month project, opening it up to adults in the community to engage in a variety of art-based workshops, which we haven't quite narrowed down yet, but things like creative writing, photography, sketching, things like that. I don't know, we're going to put, we were hoping to put like a sort of Facebook poll out in the next few weeks just to see what would be the main areas of interest from people. I don't think the bid's due till November, so we were just looking for the okay, really, tonight from committee that we go ahead with it, the application. And if it's successful, it would be like a kind of 12-month project. We would hope to have build in some sort of exhibition of work at the end of it, depending on, I suppose in a way it depends on what medium of art people choose to do. We're steering clear of any kind of performance art. We're going with things that people can create. But yeah, so the report is from Kieran really, just a sort of a kind of a beginning proposal of what it would look like.
So just to clarify, this is a national lottery bid that's specifically for libraries?
Specifically
for
for libraries. So we had a variety of different themes that we could go for, but arts is something that customers talk to us about quite a lot. We already do like craft clubs and obviously clubs for children in the library, and quite a lot of our adult customers mentioned that they'd quite like to do, and obviously it would be free. So everything that, not everything, but a lot of what is out there, people have to pay for. So if we can get some national lottery money to fund it, then it becomes something that people don't have to pay for.
I would be in favour of proposing this and giving the go-ahead for the library to do this. I think in terms of the library being used as a community hub and a lot of people who may suffer from loneliness feel comfortable going into the library space. So offering something that's completely free and subsidised and underwritten by the library is nothing but positive, especially if the library is being used as a warm hub again, like it has been previously. I would be keen to support this. Does anybody have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is actually my area of expertise in terms of Arts Council funding, and I'd noticed that strategically their top line is to really press towards libraries, where in other areas of creative sector they are cutting back. I also note Kieran's suggestion that actually the Town Council doesn't have a relationship with the Arts Council to date, but once you develop it, one grant makes you more likely to get another one. I've had 3 now, and after that first one, I know that what's helped me personally is with an out of town council hat on is to get that. And the fact that the Newquay Town Council hasn't got a relationship with the Arts Council, this could be a real step in the right direction to open up greater sources of funding at a time when we haven't got funding to give such things. So I think even tactically, I mean, the project sounds great, but tactically it means that the Town Council can approach the Arts Council for much bigger chunks of money to do much broader projects. And plenty of town councils around Cornwall, certainly outside of Cornwall, have already got really good relationships with the Arts Council and are getting chunks of funding. So, yeah, fingers crossed.
So I'll propose to have a seconder. Councillor, sorry, it's a seconder. All in favour? Great stuff. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Joe. Okay. Visit Newquay TIC Manager's Report. Sue has sent her apologies. Is there anything, Joe, of note on that one?
Not on the report itself. However, do have another request from the town clerk in regards to the website. So this came in after we had our briefing, Chair.
Yes.
So you'll have to give me. I am playing a little bit of catch up tonight. So essentially, the Visit Newquay website is coming up for a contract renewal in June 2025. So what the town clerk has suggested, and he'll have to give me, I'm going to grab some notes, is that we allocate up to £3,000 to out of the TIC earmark reserve to appoint a separate individual company to do a full review of our current Visit Newquay website, the functionality, what we need, what we don't need, where we might be able to make some cost savings if we get rid of some underutilized features, introduce any new technology that's out there that wasn't out there at the time. So the website in and around costs around about £10,000 a year. So there is merit, I think, to looking at where we can make any kind of cost savings, greater connectivity with other websites such as Love Newquay, etc. So he would just like to throw it out there to the committee to see if it's something that you would like him to start exploring, and given him and the TIC manager delegated authority to spend up to £3,000 to start looking at, and then yeah. Sorry, I'm playing a bit catch up, so I'm kind of reading his memos as well as giving you an update. So
thanks, Joe. Yeah, oh yes, Alan. Sorry, Councillor Good.
Yeah, just a point on that, Joe. Thanks for mentioning Newquay Bid, and we did have a discussion in this forum before about this, and we did. And it's unfortunate Warren's not with us tonight, about linking with Newquay Love Newquay webpage, and he offered. As a substantial amount of facility, if I remember rightly. So I'd rather look at that option first, which is a binding thing with Newquay Bid, and rather go on our own, costing maybe 2,000 to look into something, which potentially to me cost 10,000. So I'd rather we go and speak with them again at Newquay Bid, and if we can latch on to that particular web page, that'd be more for me as a beneficial way forward than actually spending money for ourselves.
Thanks, Councillor Good. Councillor Surrey?
Yeah, tying in with what Councillor just said, which is ultimately about partnership working, I would probably go even further and just kind of really more for the record that I think our current model of destination management, whereby we have business here, we have visitors and tourism here, And then we don't actually really have community and kind of civic life in quite the same way out as a Portal, but other towns do have examples of that. What I would love to see in due course, and where the Newquay Town Council plays a role in that, I don't know. And what that means for the future of Visit Newquay, I don't know. But I like a model where it all comes together. Falmouth have got an absolutely outstanding example where it's a portal for tourists, for business and for residents, and actually each one feeds the other, and it actually helps Newquay move away from just saying, well, this is what tourism looks like and this is how you engage with us as a tourism, and actually gets people to start, a bit like that film we saw earlier, start thinking about engaging in kind of, I guess what historically would be called kind of off the beaten track tourism, whereby engaging with community and business as opposed to the more classic tourism experiences is part of the tourist kind of buy-in. So that's and I am doing some work again outside of this field with a different hat, looking at some of this stuff. Indeed, I've got some money set aside to work with BID about a potential destination app. So I think I don't know where that leads in terms of recommendations here, but I would agree with Councillor Gooch that any money we're spending on recceing would probably be better allocated to, even if it's consultant or officer time, towards kind of sitting around the table with the other possible options. Yeah, that's probably my take.
Thank you. Thank you. I think what's been asked by the town clerk, if I'm correct, is just having a consultant go through the current website in its current form to have a look at all the traffic, where the traffic comes from, where it goes, the functionality. We have a booking system that's really, really underutilised that actually could probably be taken out of that, because there are many, many other websites that, yeah, it's not fit for purpose anymore because of all the external sites that do that anyway. So where could that be removed and money saved there? So I think it's more about the actual intricacies of the website rather than where we can partnership work or what it could be. It is partly what it could become in the future, but right now it's about looking at what we've got and seeing where things can be taken off or added in. Technology wise, I think the things that you've both brought up are more actually what comes after that. Once we've looked at what the website is now, what could it be, which is where both of your points come into. I think that's what Andy's asking.
Yeah, I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I see what your point is we're ultimately asking for money to be released for someone to review the current website. I think my concern would be, I don't want to see anything more added into it. I think the primary aim is to strip back and save money. I would feel really anxious about Newquay Town Council investing in a Visit Newquay website if there are changes potentially afoot. But if it's money well spent to carve out,
it's a cost-saving exercise.
That would be, yeah, great. Well, if that's what it is, I'm in favour. I don't know how Councillor Gooch is on that.
No, I agree, that's fine.
Okay. So we'll propose to release the earmark reserves to delegated authority for the clerk and the TIC manager to spend up to £3,000, but preferably less. It was 3,000.
I don't think he has an intention to go up to 3,000.
Just notionally. And can I just make sure that won't be a consultation with the existing website provider, that will be a third party who goes, so is this useful? Okay, great, there's no vested interest. Thank you.
So I'll propose that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Gooch, all those in favour? Thanks. Lovely. Is that everything?
It is, and thank you for your patience with that one.
Thanks. Okie dokie. So moving on to Communications Officer's report.
Just one thing.
Oh, yeah.
Now we've gone on to Sorry, Chair. Just going back to the TIC manager's report, I'm interested to see the report about Boardmasters 2024. I have a point that I think needs to be raised, that although the report clearly states the trailer was quiet with visitors, but we still got to hear and see what was happening around the site, which was always the reason for the TIC to attend. I think that's incorrectly written. It's showing that the staff having a good time in the Boardmasters is not necessary to the general public what it's there and what it was there about. If the Newquay trailer was quiet with visitors, I think next year we should consider not providing the trailer at the cost that it does, over those 3 to 4 days, as clearly this year it was not beneficial, because in her report it has clearly stated that. So I'd like it written down, please, that we maybe make this in a understanding that next year when we come to consideration of allocation of the trailer for the TIC, that maybe it does not go to the boardmasters, because the boardmasters, as we all know, are visitors purely down for that music event. And if you ask people around Newquay to now and today, where years ago when it was held at Fistral Beach in town, the businesses are not getting the full benefit of what Boardmaster presents. So my personal opinion is that we should consider this next year and maybe withdraw that facility at Boardmasters, because it has no beneficial, in my opinion.
Thanks, Councillor Googe. Yes, Councillor Zhou?
Yeah, I just, on Councillor Googe's point, and I would agree that the scrutiny is important. What point during the next year would that come up, or is that something that automatically, because I know that some things we would obviously agree to in terms of expenditure, or is that a standing arrangement that wouldn't necessarily, because for instance, when the NEC comes up, we are asked to approve that visit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, other than staff time and facilitating the staff to get the trailer there and back, the pitch is free, the electric's free, so there's no cost associated. So generally, it's like I said, Councillor Story, it's a yearly thing. So it's something that we have always just traditionally done. And yeah, I can take Councillor Googe's point, and I think that I won't speak for the TIC manager, but I think she's had similar concerns herself in recent years in regards to, you know, the presence of TIC and the value of that. So I'm not sure when Sue starts engaging with boardmasters for the pitch for 2025, but maybe, I mean, she will likely raise it anyway, so maybe at that juncture discuss it then. Yeah.
Thank you both. Okie dokes. Moving on to number 11, the Communication Officer's report. Anything that anybody would like to raise before we note and consider that? The only comments that I have for the kind of communications officer is praise. I think the Tuesday takeovers that she's implemented with the Killicourt residents has gone down really, really well. I think both from the business perspective and from just an optics perspective, I think it's really worked. I believe that the feedback from some of those that have participated in that, it's been really positive for their footfall and for their actual traded income. You know, so I think that is a good thing that has been rolled out and hopefully will continue and just continues to build and gather more excitement for what's happening down on the Killicourt. So well done, Sally, for that, and for those who've participated. Any other comments on the communications report? No?
Yeah.
Councillor Zurich?
Going back to Rangers again, but that's maybe, I mean, ultimately, I don't believe Sally is responsible for internal comms, but I know that we haven't been introduced to the Rangers, but it might be nice, hoping that there's a Rangers piece in the mix. Yeah. Meet our Rangers piece. I don't know whether there's any knowledge of that on the mix.
They're not actually our Rangers. So they could be, but they're nothing to, essentially, they're funded from bid.
Entirely?
So,
okay.
yeah,
No, so, okay, that's my mistake then, because I thought there was a part.
No,
okay, thank you. Thanks for clarifying that.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to number 12, the events coordinators report. Anything that anybody wants to discuss in that one? If not,
I haven't got it on my. I haven't got a report.
No.
No, she hasn't put a report through just because she's been so busy over the summer. She hasn't put a report through at the moment. Just to say that all of her events were increased capacity-wise this year, and she is currently working on Christmas. So the next report that she brings will in regard to Christmas, and I think the next item in regard is just to get into the events working parties
Yes.
together so that she can go through the plans for Christmas.
Yeah, great. Just a quick one then, before we move on to the events working party. I attended the end of season party on the Killer Court. It was a great event. There was so many people down there when that happened, when that went on, sorry, and just the ability to have wheels on the Killer Court meant that we could have new and exciting things down there, or things that haven't been seen for a long time in that space. So that was really beneficial for that kind of activity. The stretch tent looked great. I know that there are differing opinions on that particular piece of kit, but it did look nice. And I think that was a great event for the community. And actually, it felt like everybody in Newquay had come out of the woodwork after the summer holidays, which was really nice as well. So well done to Melissa for doing that event. Yes, Councillor Snowy.
On that, related to the stretch tent, I was really stunned to see it up, because the last one we left it, Joe, was that I think you were saying it was just really difficult to, I mean, it's really difficult to put up, I know that, but I would still prefer, I mean, it's not sustainable because of the hours given. It's only sustainable when it's up for a long time, and when then we can't afford the security and blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, I'd still be interested to know where we're at in terms of being able to allow it to be used by others. So it can at least be used.
Yeah, I think I did check this. I'll have to refresh my memory. I don't, from what I remember from Anne saying, there wasn't any issues with us hiring it out, or any restrictions related to that. So I know we also discussed previously about cutting it up and turning it into smaller sections, but the company that supported us putting it up just said a hard no to that. It's just not.
Yeah, no, it's
really,
designed.
Not really something you want to
Hard
do.
no.
So yeah, yeah. So there's no reason why you couldn't hire it out, essentially.
And who funded the team to put it up? Did BID do that, or did we do that?
So I think it came out of the events budget to get Javelin Tents to essentially support us putting it up. But
Yeah.
the whole point of having them putting it up for one of our events was it was twofold. So it would not only show us as staff how to put it up properly, but it also served the purpose of actually having it there for one of our events.
Yeah.
So I was on and off involved with seeing it go up. I think logistics of putting it up, I think it's doable. I think the weight of it is where it becomes a problem, and it's tricky to manoeuvre. And the equipment, yeah, there's certain equipment which would make it easier to put up, which we don't have. So, yeah, I don't know if Melissa's got a recommendation about the future of the marquee. I don't personally have one. Again, like yourself, Chair, I see benefits to it, and it looked really good. But equally, it's a real pain to put up.
Okay. Yep, Councillor Surrey.
I mean, it's unsustainable. We can't keep putting it up. So I guess my next question is going back to, can we sell it? And have we got to the bottom of whether we can sell it or not? Because that would be, even if we sell it at 50%, that's 10k in the pot.
And I believe Anne's looking into that at the moment in terms of whether it could be sold, because obviously it was grant funded. I believe Melissa spoke to Councillor Gardner in that respect, because he's familiar with the funding where we got it from. I can only echo what he said to her, which was that if we sold it and purchased something which essentially did the same job, then you are still covered. But I would heavily caveat that with, I've not spoken to Councillor Gardner myself, and I think it's still worth Anne checking that with the funders.
Will Anne be able to let us know by the next meeting? Because then we can, it would be good to, because then we can buy some tents that we all can put up, even me on my own, maybe.
Yeah, I'll face her up on it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Okay, moving on to the events working party. We haven't had a functioning working party for a little while now, so it's really key that we get this nailed down, hopefully today. What we would like to propose, Melissa would like to propose, is that we have the sitting mayor, the chair and the vice chair of C&T plus one other member to keep that committee agile so that we can make lots of positive decisions around what the events year looks like and around budgets, which I would be happy to propose, but we need to put it out to the committee, but the full committee isn't here. So can we make a recommendation that that this goes out to the full C&T committee to ask if there is another member of the committee, unless there's one here who wants to sit on that working group?
No, I'm entering retirement.
When you're looking at what days, the biggest problem we seem to have, biggest problem we seem to have in a lot of committees, especially in the C&T, as you know, we've had a very little quorum for considerable times. And it's all about days and times and what have you. So before it goes out to a potential volunteer, we need to know concrete what days or what periodic is it going to meet. Because it's all right volunteering, like some people on this committee, and they can't make it.
Sure.
So I won't commit myself at this moment in time. It's something I do enjoy. I think events is a very integral part of the community in UK. But unless I know when it's going to be on a regular basis, I can't commit.
They're not regular meetings, though, are they?
Well, even if it's just one, with the events once per programme, but you're looking at least minimum once every 3 months.
Yeah.
But it's got to be a lot of timing.
Daytime as well.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Councillor Goode, you would be a very welcome member of the events working group, because I know your experience and expertise in that area is very, very valuable. But we can go back to Melissa and maybe get in a couple of solid meetings that we know are definitely in the diary, and then maybe we can discuss, once we've got full commitment, when the rest of them will happen, to make sure that we can get as many of the group there as possible. But trying to keep it a little bit flexible, because we know that we have outside commitments.
Yeah, well, I would propose that if Melissa is working 2 days, 2.5 days a week, this is full time. Then really it should be about whether the councillors, we need to find a date,
When
find
we
a
can
time,
do it.
because ultimately Melissa's availability is greater than ours.
Yeah.
So between us, the four of us could find, and I think a standing arrangement probably works. I think we need to meet more often than every 3 months, certainly.
Yeah.
And it maybe first Monday of the month, or whatever it is, so that it's just, we'd have to plan meetings, that is when
They're
they
just
happen
in.
for the year, in the same way that a committee meeting would be. I mean, they can always be cancelled, but then it doesn't matter if they get cancelled, because they're not functioning in the same way that a committee is. But I'd rather have them in the diary for the year, and then much more likely of us all making them, particularly if we've chose a day that, broadly speaking, things change obviously, but broadly speaking we're all okay with, and then we can go back to Melissa with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if we go back to Melissa and propose that she puts in some dates for the events working party, I don't know, maybe I'm going to be really selfish, on a Friday morning, because that works better for me. Daytimes, Alan, are you better for daytimes?
Yeah, as long as it's before sort of 11 o'clock.
Okay.
I would say Friday morning might be a good one for once the first Friday of the month, every month for the rest of the year. We can always cancel a day from the list or something like that.
Yep.
And see if that works.
And see if that works for Melissa. What are we proposing now? Is that what you're going to ask? So we have a potential events working party made up of the current sitting chair is not here, mayor is not here, but we'll just propose that they can come to those meetings. That Melissa, if it fits in with Melissa's diary, that we propose that we put in a monthly meeting on the first Friday of every month for the events working party, and if that is okay by her, we then have a functioning events working party. Louise?
If that's what we're going to agree on, I'm happy to propose, or somebody that's happy to come, I'm happy to put a name forward.
Great.
Because I can make first Friday of each month in the mornings.
Great.
On those grounds, propose that Councillor Goode join you.
Okay. Louise, if you can make sense of all of that, that would be great. Thank you.
With the first one being hopefully the first Friday morning in October.
Do I have to propose? I'll propose.
Second.
All those in favour? Great. Okay, moving on to item 13, which is the Pulse Smart Hub proposal. You should have had a pack included in the agenda bundle, but there is printouts there if anybody wants to have a look at them. Joe, I'll let you take this and then I'll jump in as and when you need.
Thank you, Chair. So, for a bit of context, Pulse approached Cornwall Council and Newquay Bid, I believe around early summer, maybe midsummer, just to engage with them and kind of talk about who they are, what they do, and what their hubs do and where they are. So currently their biggest success is Belfast. Obviously that's significantly different to us, but they are being pushed by their advertising partner Global to now start pushing into the southwest of the country. So the hubs, to try and summarise, which is quite difficult, they are essentially advertising displays, but they have a lot of other functionality which really plays into more benefit for the community. So not only is it advertising displays, but they are modular, so they have features such as free Wi-Fi for the public, there's free phone calls, there's a emergency 999 function where if a member of the public feels vulnerable or threatened, they can press that and it immediately connects to the emergency services, which then turns on an internal CCTV, which they can then interact with. They partner with stakeholders in those areas, so the town councils, the police, etc. And generally in those areas, they give their stakeholders an element of free advertising for their own messaging. So, for example, one example they gave us for, I think it was Belfast or one of the other areas, the police had a criminal who's committing some quite obscene crimes in that area, and the police could very quickly put out imagery of the individual. It went straight onto their hubs, and within a relatively short kind of stretch of time, they managed to catch the person. So it was a real benefit in that regard. It's also a benefit to homeless organisations as well. There's a lot of outreach kind of media that they can publish on the signs. So it's more about, it's not just about advertising. Obviously advertising pays for it, but it's not just about that. They have defibrillators in the units as well. They're also exploring working with the NHS in regards to getting a nasal spray in the units, which essentially to every other person, if you use it, it's inert, but if someone's having an overdose, it will treat that person, and it's a life-saving device. So they're currently exploring that as well. So there's a lot of functionality to these hubs. Like I said, they originally approached BID and Cornwall Council, who seemed quite positive about them. I then wanted to engage with them direct with Susan, just to kind of get an idea of what they are, who they are, what's their ethos. So essentially, they gave us an indicative suggestion of locations in the town and where it's feasible for them. So they gave us a list of 20 or 30 feasible locations. Myself, the chair, Mark from BID, and Susan, TRC manager, whittled that down to a lot less locations. But this is just almost the start. So this is just pre-engagement. They haven't even spoken to Cornwall Council yet, so they don't even know how who will go through the planning system. So just in regards to management, it's completely hands-off. It's all owned and managed by them, paid for by them. They clean them once a week. I think it's once a week, or it's once a fortnight. Yeah. So they bear all the cost. Where the stakeholders link in is mainly through how we can connect with the hubs. So essentially what Visit Belfast do is the hubs are connected to the Visit Belfast website. So they draw all the information from Visit Belfast, they get all the events listings from the website, and when someone comes up to one of the hubs, they can see what's in their local area, see what events are in the area. They can download a QR code with a map, which can then direct them to where they need to go. So there was a lot of plus points from what they were proposing, but obviously we outlined some of our concerns as well. So, I mean, my concerns were what would be the impact on the TIC, so what would be the impact on actual footfall to the TIC. Although you could counter that with they would get more clicks on their website because it's be interacting with the website. Mark raised a good point in regards to what would be the impact on local business. So, for example, if they were advertising Primark, are you indirectly sending people to Truro because that's the nearest Primark store or M&S? So they countered that again with it would be more brands. So, for example, Coca-Cola or something to that effect, where you can get it anywhere. It's not necessarily specific to a certain area. I did also raise concerns that I feel that with anything like this, there needs to be a balance with the amount of displays you're looking at. Because, yeah, I mean, we whittled it down to 10, and 10 might seem like a large number, but in reality, if you spread it around Nant Lleden, Crunchell Downs, St Column Minor, Hendra, Pentyre, it's not actually as much as it seems. But I know from living here for 30 plus years, there's a lot of proud people in the town, and I think there's a real sense of protectiveness over the town and protectiveness from overdevelopment. So they did say that you could start this process with 10 signs. You could go through your public consultation, your planning consultation, your stakeholders, and end up with 5, and then that might not be viable for them. So really and truly, this is very early days, and I think what we wanted from this committee is, do you want us as a group of a panel of Beard, TIC, Chair, to look at this a bit more in depth, take it to full council to see how all members think, or just strike Nuki out and just say, look, we're not interested. The only thing I would say with that is they don't need the town council to do this. If they want if their advertisers are pushing them to the southwest, they can just go to Cornwall Council Planning, get it through the planning process, and that would be that. So my feeling is, if this is going to happen, I feel that we need to be involved as town council, rather than just let it slide.
Thanks, Joe. That was a great summary. My feelings are similar to Joe's. These guys they know what they're doing. They are very slick. What they're bringing is a really good product to wherever they're bringing it to. I can see the benefits at a community level, both in terms of the buy-in that we could potentially get from the police, from the NHS, from the ambulance service, what the actual hub provides, and also in terms of advertising space as well. They have a very nice deal for community organisations to take up a percentage of space on there free of charge, which is going to benefit our community organisations massively. In terms of their drive and why they're doing this, from what they shared, it sounds like everything is for the benefit of the community. I know that they are an advertising organisation and they're funded by big companies, but it feels like they're trying to use that in a positive way. They're working towards B Corp status, which they're hoping to have nailed down by the end of the year, which means they are quite ethical in terms of their supply chains and what they are trying to do. And as Joe said, we will either be on the sidelines while this happens anyway, or we become an active partner in it where we get a say on how they engage with our communities and how they engage with the TIC. You know, there are going to be other people jumping on this as soon as it becomes kind of out there. So I think that's just something to be mindful of. Has anyone got any questions or thoughts?
Yeah, it's going to be unpopular, but that doesn't mean that we should at all bulk from what we think is best. I certainly think I think that there'll be all sorts of concerns, but ultimately it's also about positioning Newquay as a statement of intent towards providing services and making use of private funding to make things happen, bearing in mind our own attempts at putting a board up demonstrates another example of where actually working in partnership with the private sector can kind of get it done and some. I'm less concerned about footfall to the TIC. I think that's almost, for me, that's an opportunity to just kind of scrutinise the need for what we have and justify its investment. I think it's a good idea, and I think you're right. From the ethos of the company, there are other companies that would feel less happy to jump on board with, but there's also benefits for the town council, and I think it's positioning and showing the town council wants to kind of play that role rather than just let it happen.
Yep. So we propose that the what are we going to say? The committee, or we want to take it to full council? Just. What are your recommendations?
I would say it might be worth taking this to full council to see if, as a council and a corporate body, you want to engage with Pulse to develop a Newquay proposal. The only thing I would caveat with is I think it would be useful and fair to the chair and vice chair of planning to at least give them a prelude and a kind of a separate update, because if later down the line it actually gets to the point where the planning application is developed and it comes to town council, I'd like at least Joanna and Sarah to be aware of this before it comes to full council.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So we propose that we'll take Pulse to full council and also talk to chair and vice chair of planning. Great. I'll propose that. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Googe. All those in favour? Lovely. Okay, number 14, correspondence.
No written correspondence, Joe?
No written correspondence. Just to check, Joe, with correspondence, is this to do with anything that kind of is impacted by this committee or has an influence? Just going back to Boardmasters, and there is a point to this. We've had emails from concerned residents that want to let us know about something, or is that what comes under this?
Yeah, pretty much. So anything which comes under the remit of C&T. So if we've had any, generally public questions will be in the public questions section, but and anything which comes under your remit and your terms of reference, I will place under that item.
I suppose for me then it's just an update on, it's going back to the Boardmasters conversation that we had before. I've received several written bits of feedback from residents, people that attended the Boardmasters Festival about concerns that they've raised that they'd really like to be taken back to Boardmasters, and also an update on the CAP. The Saints Coast CAP are planning to have a meeting with Cornwall Council about several concerns that have been raised from Boardmasters, both people that have attended the festival and residents of the kind of outlying Newquay areas around St Columb Major.
I've been reliably informed there's a wash-up meeting with Boardmasters in October, so that might be an opportune time to take any feedback you've had to that meeting for them face-to-face.
Thank you. Councillor Smith.
On the sort of correspondence, I know that I've kind of let, I think, the clerk and also Sally know that it would be good to let the public know that they can. I want people to be at the gallery and writing questions for us to, because I'm interested, when was the last correspondence or gallery member for a C&T? I'm hoping you might And Shirley doesn't count. Sorry, Shirley, for listening.
I couldn't tell you that, Councillor Slurry. I don't think it's been this year.
So we can encourage.
Is there, could we propose that our comms officer, I know she does this,
Just to say, it's on her to-do list to show somebody how they can attend. She's done a video anyway to show how you would attend,
Yeah.
but to how you can put in correspondence. So it is on her list of things. She's got it on her radar.
amazing work, Sally, thank you very much. That you beat me to it. Great stuff. Okay, so number 15 is budget, which is to follow, as already discussed. That will be coming, so if we could all take a bit of time to look at those before we come to our October meetings to discuss budgets, that would be super helpful. Anything else on that, Joe, or is that?
No, as I said before, I believe the intention is for October to be predominantly your budget meeting. So if we can have to think about that, Chair, and as a committee, if we can try and slimline that agenda so it's more budget focused. So maybe if there are any kind of items which we can look at pushing back to November that aren't as time critical and focus on budget, because I've seen it more often than not where budget is an item on a very heavy agenda and it doesn't get the focus it deserves. So that's the only thing I'd like to just plead, really, if we can just have a more slimline agenda for October.
Yep, that sounds like a good idea. Can I just check what the deadline is for the grants, this round of grants, and whether that'll fall into October's meeting?
Yeah, so it will be our October meeting, so if that will have to be grants and budget.
So if we just have those two things on the agenda, great. Okay. All right, thank you very much. Any other business? Councillor Cheney.
Thank you, Chair. This notice board, how's it going?
To be honest, Councillor Cheney, it was, it came at the a poor timing, really, with Pulse. So when we were looking to finalise the sign, Pulse then contacted us, and to my mind, I had this conversation with the chair. I felt, in the interests of public money, it probably wasn't worth spending £15,000 on a sign which we'd had no interest in, when we could very soon be partnering with another organisation who are going to deliver a load of hubs around the town. And not only that, but if you then have two running side by side, let's say hypothetically, it's going to be very confusing for the members of the public. So you're going to have a hub there by Pulse, our sign, which is just a digital display, and it won't be touchscreen, and it's going to be very confusing for the member of the public coming along and thinking it's a Pulse hub when it's actually not. So I took an active decision to pause that. I hold my hands up, but my best interests were in the interest of the committee.
And cost savings. So yes, Councillor Surrey.
I'd like to thank Deputy Clerk for his decision in that case and would wholeheartedly support it, and thank you.
Yes, agreed. Great. Anybody else? Any other business? Nope. Okay, lovely. So number 17 is date of the next meeting. So the next C&T committee meeting will be held on the 17th of October and will take place at 7 p.m. Thank you all.
And
Councillor
can I just double check that we can't change the, can you remind me where we were at in terms of changing the Thursdays?
It's set until May, so yeah, May will be your next opportunity to do that.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody. Call the meeting to a